Hello folks, Scott here with my 10 cards, 1 kit video featuring the Love From Lizi July 2020 card kit. Lizzie is calling this the Love You Always card kit. As usual, I do take my 5 supplied pieces of cardstock and make my 10 card bases from that. This is a little cheat here, but we'll get to that. As you probably know, July is World Watercolor Month. So I thought I would do some watercoloring with these stamps. I felt like these were all perfectly appropriate for doing some watercolor techniques. This is the Love You Always stamp set with these 2 large bouquets. This is the Just Because add-on stamp set that has this other nice bouquet and this great spray of flowers. So let's do some watercoloring this month. So for my first card on one of the black card bases, we've got Love You Always. Isn't that appropriate? It's a nice watercolored card with that nice spray of flowers from the Just Because add-on stamp set. I think that stamp is extremely versatile. For a little change of pace, I thought I would pull out my Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. I don't play with these watercolor pencils very often, and I think I need to start playing with them some more. They are really nice. They melt like butter. They blend together beautifully. You can layer colors on top of colors just like with real watercolors. This is what I painted this first card with, the Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. This is just a quick buzz through showing you my painting of this. I love how this came out. It's really, really pretty. The colors are very vibrant. I've got some great blends in there. Very pretty watercoloring. This is all, of course, done on 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. I die cut that with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, matted that on thin black cardstock, then matted that to some of that green cracked paint pattern paper that was cut just a little bit smaller than our card base. So we've got 2 nice, really thin black frames. I stamped this sentiment, Love You Always, which is, of course, from the Love You Always stamp set. I stamped that in VersaFine Onyx black ink, and I did emboss that just a little bit, give us a little shine there. Of course, I added a whole bunch of little Nouveau drops from our Morning Dew Nouveau drops. They've added a nice touch of shine, a nice little bit of dimension to what otherwise is basically kind of a flat 1-layer card. Love You Always. Love that flower spray stamp. So for my next card, this is on a blush pink card base. We've got our thank you card. I feel like this card is definitely exactly what this card kit was supposed to create. This is a stamp from the Love You Always stamp set, and I reached for my Daniel Smith watercolor dot cards to color this. I really like using Daniel Smith watercolors. They are beautiful, easy to use. Again, I can lose myself watercoloring images like this. Now, I actually took, if you look, you can see up on the left side of this bouquet, you can see that little sprig of greens. That was one of our extra little stamps in this stamp set. I just masked off the front of those flowers and stamped that little sprig in the background there. I thought that added a nice little touch of balance to the left side of this watercolor piece. I'm sorry we're blowing through this so fast, but I thought I would show you my watercoloring. I really like this glass vase that these flowers are in. Very pretty, kind of poppy-ish. We've got a little red, we've got a little pink. This is how it all came out together. I die cut the watercolor piece and the matte with the Gina K Designs oval die sets. I have the large one and I have the small. When you use them together, it gives you that beautiful, perfect little skinny matte behind your double-stitched front piece. I cut a piece of that flower garland 12 by 12 cut apart paper. I cut that to 3 3/4 inches wide. I glued that down to my blush pink card base and then lined the edges with some of the black ribbon from our embellishment bag. I glued down my matted watercolor piece in the center. I stamped the sentiment on a piece of our beige pattern paper, stamped that with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I did emboss that with some clear embossing powder. I trimmed that out into a banner, matted that on some more black cardstock, mounted that below my bouquet here with a little foam tape. I took our butterfly die. There we go. Look at that. You can see it. I didn't realize that glitter was going to be quite so dark when I first started doing that. But I die cut 2 butterflies from some thick black cardstock. I think that's Hero Arts jet black cardstock. I cut 2 of those, trimmed the antenna off of one of them, put some score tape behind the openings, and filled those in with some red and some purple glitter. It's really nicely glittery in real life. It's a little hard to see there in the camera, but you've got 2 wings there. So we've got a full butterfly just up to the left side of our bouquet. I also took one of our little black bows from our embellishment bag and added that to the left side of my sentiment here. Thank you, a lovely thank you card. This feels like it's perfectly in tune with this whole kit. Card number 3, this is another watercolor card. We are on the dark gray card base, and we've got All My Love with another stamp. This one's from the Just Because stamp set. And now I colored this one straightforward, very simply, a nice technique. I used my Distress ink pads and my little finger daubers, and I just daubed color into the middle of each of these stamped flowers. Again, all of these are stamped with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. All of these are colored on 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. I went through and colored this whole stamp just using my finger daubers and Distress ink. And then I took my mini mister and sprayed the hell out of it. I put a lot of water on top of this just to get those colors to move. Of course, Distress inks move very well with water, and these moved quite nicely. I really, really liked it. I set this aside once this had totally soaked up all that water and let it dry really well. Of course, there was plenty of bleeding, so ultimately I did fussy cut that stamp out from the watercolor paper, which is where you find it on this card here. Again, this is that green cracked paint pattern paper. This is cut to 1 3/4 inches, glued to the center of our dark gray card base. These are the peel-offs from the kit on the top and bottom. I mounted my flower arrangement with some foam tape. I took the 2 butterflies and one of the buttons, and I embossed those using Versamark ink and the Love From Lizi Atlantis Green embossing powder. I thought that was really perfect. It went excellently with this green cracked paint pattern paper, and it has little touches of gold in it, green and gold. I thought that worked very well for this. All My Love, this is a little sticker from the Circles and Sentiments add-on sticker pack. I gave that a little thin black mat and then mounted that on a little banner on the right side of our bouquet here. I then added 3 little hearts, mini hearts from our Mini Hearts peel-off sheet. That's in one of the add-on bundles. Added those underneath that with a couple of dots of our Nouveau drops. That's all the embellishment. That's all the shine this needs. No, I'm lying to you. I actually added some sparkle to the lace around the jar on this card here using my Sukaniko Stardust glitter pen. I think you can see that there. This came out really nicely. I'm very pleased with it, and I was kind of blown away at how easy it was. I think it has a really nice, soft watercolor feel to it without putting in a whole hour's worth of labor. All My Love. And for our 4th watercolor project, this is on one of the white card bases, and we have Flower You Doing? A pun with our watercolor this month. Flower You Doing? This is the other stamp from the Love You Always stamp set. Now, I actually added these little blossoms, which is on the extra little sprig of blossoms in that stamp set. I just masked off the top of these flowers and stamped those blossoms on top. I thought it worked very nicely. I reached for my Stabilo pens to color this. Stabilo watercolor pens. I don't use these very often, but they really have great colors. I have a nice little set here. They actually move quite well on watercolor paper. I think these little markers move better on watercolor paper than the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers do. Although I think the Zig markers move better on Bristol Smooth cardstock than the Stabilo markers do. So if I'm going to do a marker watercoloring on watercolor paper, I'll use my Stabilo. If I'm going to color on Bristol Smooth cardstock, then I'll use my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. These are very easy to use, very fun. I love the beautiful colors. I really liked the blue that I got in the water in this stamp. Again, this was fun. I probably spent, 30 or 40 minutes coloring this. That's why it's buzzing by so fast for you. But this is a little bit of my watercolor techniques for you guys. I am certainly no expert at watercoloring, but I do enjoy playing with my watercolors and practicing with every card I make. And this is what we're left with. Flower you doing? Flower you doing? I die cut the watercolored stamp with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. I glued this to, this is one of the cut apart panels from our 12 by 12 cut apart sheets. It's the one that had the journaling lines in the middle of it. This little cutout fit perfectly on that frame. So I glued that to that cut apart piece, put a thin black mat behind that, glued those all down to a white card base. I did print this flower you doing sentiment on the bottom of that using my Silhouette software and my piggyback printing method. This is using the Smoothie Shop font. I'll put a link up top if you'd like to see how I print sentiments for my cards. A really fun card, a nice little punny sentiment, flower you doing? And a few Nouveau drops for some nice little wet sparkle and dimension on another fairly flat card. Now, I know there are plenty of people out there who you say color something and they'll say, no, me, I do not color. I won't color. I don't like to color. I just want to stamp and go. So these stamps are actually quite useful for that. You don't have to color these up. I hope this next card illustrates that to you. This is on the warm pink card base, and we have You Make My Heart Smile. Again, with that great flower spray stamp, but done in black on that hot pink card base. This looks really nice. I did add 2 of the little flower bloom stamps from that stamp set in the corners here, kind of filled out those corners a bit. I did stamp that all with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and of course I embossed that with some clear embossing powder. Now, I thought it was just a little too flat, so I grabbed some bleach and painted some bleach on the center flowers. That, in effect, bleaches out that watercolor paper a little bit. It's very subtle, but I think you can see it quite well there, that those center flowers are just a little bit lighter pink than the rest of this card. It really makes them pop a little bit, really adds some nice variety to the card. I don't think it bled through to the back at all, no. But you can bleach your colored cardstocks and achieve some different colors there. This is from our sticker sheet, You Make My Heart Smile. I matted that on a thin piece of black cardstock, mounted that to the card with some foam tape. I added a bunch of these little metallic embellishments on this. Now, I swear these were from a Lizi kit, but for the life of me, I can't figure out which Lizi kit they came from. I looked really hard, but I couldn't figure it out. They were in my stash. I thought they went really well with this black and pink card. And I did add one little mini heart peel off in black to the left of that sentiment there. That's all of the extra shine. That's all the extra dimension this card needs. I really like this very monochromatic You Make My Heart Smile And here you can use those stamps to great effect without even having to color them. Well, it seems like slimline cards are all the rage these days. I've done a few slimline cards over the past few years, some of them with the Lizi kits. This is my next card. This is on a white card base. This was cut to 8 inches by 9 inches. So this card is 4 inches by 9 inches. This is our slimline card. Thinking of you, with that great flower garland that is featured on one of our 12 by 12 cut apart pages. I just dug out my X-Acto knife and cut 9 inches of that center floral garland away from that cardstock and use that for this card. I think it's very effective. How could you resist using those 12-inch long garlands without doing a nice slimline card? Now, I did try to leave a little bit of a white border just to make the fussy cut a little bit easier. I did go in with some Tattered Rose Distress Oxide ink, and I inked up a little bit on the white card base behind the edges of our fussy cut piece here. I mounted that over that ink blending with some foam tape, stamped this Thinking of You sentiment on a piece of pattern paper, cut that to size, matted that on some black. That is embossed, of course, with some clear embossing powder for a little shine. I love the little mailbox over here. We got a little postcard here. Love the flowers. I really, really like this long slimline card. I think anybody would be thrilled to get this. I am thinking of you. Okay, my fussy cutting mojo was in full gear, so for my next card, we'll make a little collage card, which I think this kit lends itself to beautifully. And we've got, while we are far apart, you are always in my heart. That's that little tiny sentiment from the Just Because stamp set. I really liked that and wanted to use it. Now this pattern paper in the back here is the single blooms that are taped pattern paper. That pattern paper is cut to 3 inches wide, then matted on thin black mat for the 2 sides, glued down directly to our card base. The letter box, the flowers, the postcard, and the wax seal are all fussy cut from our 12 by 12 ephemera pattern paper. I avoided the little finer bits of the foliage and just stuck to the large leafy pieces of foliage, but I don't think I missed those little fine bits at all. I didn't want to leave a white border on these, so I just went for the easier cut on those. The letterbox, of course, was fairly easy to cut out. Of course, the postcard and the wax seal, easy as well. Those are all attached to this card front using foam tape. There's a double layer of foam tape behind my post box here, just so it's a little bit taller than the rest. I stamped this sentiment again in VersaFine Onyx Black ink that is on some of the pattern paper from the kit. Cut that out, matted that with a black mat, glued that to the card front with some more foam tape. This is, again, I think this really embodies the kit kind of perfectly. This kit lends itself to great collage cards like this, where you can assemble as many of those images together as you like. I think this means a lot. While we are far apart, you are always in my heart. I love those little post boxes. We are back to one of our black card bases. We got a little bit of an interactive card here. And you open the shutters for Here for You. A nice sentiment that says, I'm here for you. I really like this card a lot. I think this card is extremely masculine for a very feminine kit. This is one of our cut apart panels that I trimmed down to 2.5 by 3.5 and then cut the doors of the shutter open and then put some pattern paper behind that opening. Of course, I scored their hinges, then I matted that all onto a thin black frame. This is our shutter, one of our shutter pattern papers. I trimmed that down to size and glued that directly to my black card base. I then stamped this sentiment in the middle, "Here for you." I added a couple of these blue-green heart glitter pieces above and below this sentiment. I debated with myself whether to add more stamps or add more stuff on the inside of this window, but I think that sentiment really speaks all by itself in there. I kind of like the white space around that. I love that little shutter piece. I'm here for you. That means a lot these days too, I tell you. We had that one cut apart panel that was like the front of an envelope, all ready to put an address, is all decorated with flowers, etc. I actually considered using that panel to make an envelope for some of these cards, but then I had a little bit of a different idea. This again is on the warm pink card base, and we've got "All my lovin' I will send to you. All my lovin'." A little bit of our Beatles song for you here. This is that envelope panel from our cut apart sheet. I just cut that down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. I did print this sentiment on it using my Silhouette software and my printer. I worked on this one for quite a while. This is actually the Henny Penny font and the Dream State font. I'll have links to all these sentiments over on my website at cardcutups.com. I did some ink blending on the edges using some fired brick Distress Oxide ink. I curled up the opposite edges here and glued that right down to my warm pink card base. All my lovin' I will send to you. This is actually a sticker from the Circles and Sentiments add-on sticker pack. It was perfect, a nice little red there. I added that to the card front with some foam tape after I powdered the back to remove the sticker part of it. I actually took some of these nice pink little heart glitter pieces and glued those all over this card. That adds a nice touch of shine and sparkle to this. I actually took my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and added a little bit of sparkle on top of that lovin' there too. All my lovin' I will send to you. I like this very much. I will send to you. How can you resist? This looks like an envelope. That is a postmark. All my lovin' I will send to you. A really nice, fun, gosh, Valentine or love card. I can't believe we're through all of these already. Okay, my last card. I did do a little sneak peek of this on Facebook, on all my channels in the Lizi channel. This is on the last dark gray card base, and we've got "I'm your biggest fan" with that great little windmill die over there. I'm so happy. I knew I could figure out a way to use that windmill die with this kit. Now, I die cut that twice. I die cut that from a piece of watercolor paper and then trimmed the blades out and did a little ink blending on those blades with some pumice stone distress ink. That really brought out the embossing that the die gave us. That die really gave some nice embossing on those windmill blades. I then die cut that windmill die again from a piece of the large green beadboard pattern paper and did some distressing on that with my pumice stone ink. I took a piece of yellow cardstock, distressed that with some pumice stone ink, glued those all together for my windmill here. I took a curved hillside die and cut this hillside from some more of that green cracked paint pattern paper. I did do some ink distressing on this hill with peeled paint Distress Oxide ink, a little bit darker on the edges. This is a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock I die cut with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and did ink blending on that with some broken china Distress Oxide ink above the hill, and then used the My Favorite Things mini cloud stencil to make the cloud clouds in the sky. Now that fit just perfectly in that framed cut-apart panel that had that nice frame. It fit almost perfectly in there, so I just glued that to that frame piece, trimmed that out. I added this piece of the small green beadboard pattern paper to the card base. This is cut 3.5 inches wide, glued to the gray card base, and then some of the green ribbon glued on the top and bottom edges of that. I mounted my framed little picture of the windmill with some foam tape. I printed this sentiment on a piece of our pattern paper, again using my Silhouette software, and this is with the Brady Bunch remastered font. I actually die cut this piece using the little square die that was from the Love From Lizi border dies. What's it called? The Background Builder Set 1, die set 1, back in September of last year, September of 2019, we got that background builder. I just did a partial die cut on each side to make our little rectangle down here. Came out perfectly. I added this sentiment to our card front with some foam tape, added a few little dots of our Nouveau drops, and one little dot right there in the center of our fan blades. I'm your biggest fan. I think that's a great sentiment. Biggest contrasted with the smallest. I'm your biggest fan. Little itty bitty tiny windmill. So that's my 10 cards for Lizi's July 2020 Love You Always kit. I actually did manage to use every single stamp in our stamp set from the kit. I did almost use all of the stamps in the Just Because stamp set. I didn't use these 3 sentiments. I'd rather have a pun any day. I have 6 pieces of our pattern paper still left, so I only used half of our pattern paper, and I have some good scraps left from that. I actually surprised myself and used quite a bit of our large 12 by 12 cut apart sheets. That's that 9-inch piece right there that I cut out for my Slimline card. I used 4 panels from this sheet. I did do some fussy cutting from our ephemera piece, and of course this was great, I found, for stamping your sentiments. I don't think I used any plain white cardstock other than the 2 card bases that are white. Surprised myself in using as many of these cut aparts as I did. I did use some of our peel-offs, not a lot, but some. I used one of the stickers. I was going to use this sticker, Love Letters. That was going to be on this All My Love card, but I decided that I liked the All My Love better. So I did use one of the stickers from the sticker sheet included in our kit. I'm really pleased with all of the embellishments I used, although for some reason I didn't use any sequins this month. I think I fell in love with those Nouveau Morning Dew crystal drops, and besides, little drops of water go very well with flowers. And I also felt that kind of the vintage feel of this kit didn't really lend itself to lots of bling and shiny sequins. I used a little bit of our ribbon in the kit. I used both of our dies. Yay! None of the sequins. I did use both of our butterfly die cuts, and I actually used a button and one of the black bows. I didn't get to those pesky mini clothespins. I even used some of the mini heart peel-offs from our assorted bundle add-on this month. I thought I did a really good job covering a lot of the material included in this kit. This kit has sold out. It sold out like instantly the minute Lizi offered it, which of course usually happens with all of her card kits. I do know that the Just Because add-on stamp set is still available. I think it's worth it for that simple, lovely spray of flowers all on its own. Really like that stamp a lot. I had a great time putting these cards together. I think we've got a really nice variety of cards here. The only thing we're really missing is a happy birthday card. I thought it was great fun to challenge myself to come up with 4 different ways of watercoloring these stamps. I really enjoy the collage effects and the flowers. And you know, for a really heavily pink kit, I don't think these cards are particularly pinky, pinky, pinky. Of course they are pink. Love this card with the shutters. Let me know which card or cards are your favorite. Thank you so much for joining me, folks. If you do go shopping at Love From Lizi, please use my links in the description down below. It helps this channel so much. You have no idea how grateful I am for that. I hope you enjoyed my take on Lizi's July 2020 Love You Always card kit. Please know I love all of you. Please stay safe. Please stay well. Please wear your masks. Avoid large groups in confined spaces. We have not beaten this thing yet, and it frightens me to see the numbers continue to climb across this country. Please, please, please take care of yourself. Please be well. I send you healthy and happy thoughts, and as always, happy crafting. If you'd like more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.